When power meets miscalculation, even the strongest machines can fall. A towering crane lifts a massive steel beam high above a construction site. Workers watch in tense silence until a sharp creak cuts through the air. The cable slowed. Just as it reaches the peak disaster, the brakes fail, the weight shifts, and the truck tilts backward. In the world of heavy transport, size is everything. A vehicle with what seems like an uncountable number of tires moves steadily, carrying a giant cylindrical industrial unit, massive, reinforced, and weighing hundreds of tons. But beneath the surface, pressure builds. The balance between the carrier and the load begins to shift. The weight, too much for even this mechanical giant, starts to push beyond control. Metal groans, tires hiss, and then it happens. The massive equipment tilts, slowly but surely, and crashes to the ground with a thunderous impact. Dust rises, silence follows. The carrier, though built for the impossible, one wrong move, and chaos unfolds. During the development of a fuel station, a massive fuel tank is being lowered into a wide, deep pit. But suddenly, the carrier vehicle loses balance. In a split second, both the tank and the vehicle crash into the pit. Hard. Metal twists, dust flies, and the site is left in a total mess. One slip, and everything comes crashing down. A towering crane lifts heavy building materials high above the construction site, but suddenly the weight shifts, just enough to throw everything off balance. The crane tilts, then crashes down with full force. Steel bends, concrete shatters, and the partially built structure is destroyed in seconds. Nearby materials are crushed, turning the site into a scene of chaos. A massive road construction vehicle moves steadily across the site, carrying tons of weight. Suddenly, the left side tire bursts with a loud bang. In an instant, the vehicle loses balance and slams to the ground with a heavy crash. Dust rises, metal groans, and the site comes to a halt. All it took was one tire. A crane lifts a massive excavator to lower it into a deep pit for underground parking. But due to operator negligence, the crane loses control of the weight. In seconds, both the crane and excavator plunge into the pit, leaving a wreck behind. One careless move, total disaster. Next, a tower crane lifts steel beams several stories high. Suddenly, the load begins to swing, uncontrolled and fast. The crane's base shakes, then snaps. The entire arm collapses like a domino, crashing through scaffolding and damaging everything in its path. A structural oversight, now a collapsed site. A crane is lowering a giant steel container into a deep foundation pit, but the chains are loosely hooked. As the load nears the ground, one chain slips. The entire container swings hard, hits the edge, and crashes into the pit, knocking debris onto workers below. Luckily, no injuries, but the cost? Huge. The UE. It starts with a routine excavation. An excavator attempts to climb a muddy slope after a long dig, but the ground gives way. Its massive tracks lose grip, and within seconds, the entire machine tips backward, flipping into the pit it just dug. A simple miscalculation with heavy consequences. A mobile crane on a highway shoulder starts to lift a damaged car, but the crane isn't fully stabilized. As it lifts, the whole machine tips onto the highway, narrowly missing oncoming traffic. It takes just one missed step to trigger chaos. Like, share, and subscribe Timber Titan for more amazing content.